Innovative.
Dynamic.
Gritty.
Determined.
Warrior.
This podcast is about the innovators,
the leaders on the front lines of adversity,
the all-around good people doing good deeds.
They are the civic warriors of the world. Our guests are the leaders in the nonprofit industry affecting change.
They try, they fail, they overcome.
Through their stories, we can join forces to become civic warriors. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Today I am with Willie Frank. Willie Frank is from the Families of the Fallen Night Stalkers. And we're going to talk a little bit about who they are, what they do, and talk a little bit more about the Night Stalkers and their mission. So thank you for being with us, Willie.
Well, thank you. I'll just start right in that my husband was CW4 Raymond Frank. He was a Night Stalker, and he was, as most of the people you'll talk to in the Night Stalker organization, he was very proud to be a Night Stalker. He was killed on October 3rd, 1993, in the Black Hawk Down story, the Battle of the Black Sea in Mogadishu, Somalia. And we lost 18 soldiers that day, so it was out of the Night Stalker community, we lost 5. So it was a big day for us, and it was a changing day in the way the Night Stalker apparatus worked. We were cast into the spotlight, where before we had been very secretive. When Mike Durant, the other pilot in the aircraft of my husband's face, showed up on television that Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock, it changed a lot of the ways we did business in the 160th and things that were to come. I point to that as the foundation for Families of Fallen Night Stalkers, because we were so blessed to have the right people in the right place at the right time to take care of our families. And since then, we've all been working to try to pay back the stability we were given and the love and respect. And so in 2007, we created an organization called the Families of Fallen Night Stalkers. And the purpose of it really is to give our families a place where they feel secure, that they have a place where they belong, that they can come to, and we will support them. If they have individual or personal needs, we can assist them in finding help. Our finances aren't so at this time that we can go out and do things on our own, but we're like the triage unit. We can go out and find people to help them. We have been very blessed by all the organizations that support the Night Stalker community, from education for our kids, education for our spouses, care for our families when they run into financial hardships or have needs. It just is that safety net there if we need it. Fortunately, most of our families go on and are very self-reliant, self-sufficient, and do very well. For the education for our kids, we have kids now, adults now, that are in their 30s and 40s that have been through the system. They lost their dads back in the 80s, and they have had an education through the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. They have gone on and gotten their bachelor's and their master's degrees. They are now mentors to the kids coming up from the families that have been lost in the last 10 years. So it's a constant paying it forward type situation. Most of the people that participate in our annual meetings are parents. The parents hold on and come back year after year. There's a little family that lives in Nebraska named the Eichners, and they are in their 80s now. Their baby son was killed in 1983. And the Eichners still come every year to everything we have, one, to honor their son and to see that he's remembered. And the unit, the 160th, does such an amazing job of making sure that our soldiers aren't forgotten. And they treat us always like we are their guests, that we are special because our soldiers were special. And it makes life a lot easier sometimes, getting over those places where if we're having a bad day or it's a special day for us, an anniversary or something, there's always going to be somebody that remembers. And maybe that's the secret is it's Night Stalkers don't quit. And we've added Night Stalkers don't forget, because they don't. Those names that are on that wall from, especially Crumley, from 1980 right through Sergeant Rivera Lopez, the last name put on the wall. Those families will always be remembered. My family itself has shrunk. I have just basically myself, my husband's entire family is gone. And I find the wall a place of joy and a place of remembrance, because I can always go there, and I know that anybody that walks past that wall is going to see his name and remember him and know who he was. And so that just
And
does
be proud. And be proud.
And be proud.
Extraordinarily proud.
Last night I met a man who was in Green Platoon when my husband was in Somalia, and he was telling me all the things he knew about my husband. That happened 26 years ago, and yet this man knew my husband's story. And when you've lost someone, you know what that is to have your loved one remembered. It just does something great and wonderful to your heart. And so there's soldiers on that wall that don't have any families anymore, but we still remember them.
And the wall is located in?
At Fort Campbell, in front of the headquarters.
Fort Campbell, okay.
It's a beautiful edifice. And then originally we started out, our mission was we included soldiers that had been killed in action or in training. Those are the names that go on the wall. And it has become a phenomenon over the last, and there's 97 names on the wall at this time. Has become a phenomenon that we've lost so many soldiers since post 9/11 to other incidences, accidents, that sort of thing. We have a couple of soldiers we lost because a guy comes to the unit and they're in there for life sometimes. And so we have a soldier that's been 16 years in the unit. He gets cancer, and he's medically retired and dies the next day or 6 months later. And so we changed our information to where we include soldiers who were killed while serving in the unit or died of other injuries or illnesses as a result of serving in the unit.
Right.
And so we have families that maybe their husbands did die afterwards, but it was because of something related. And that way we pick up some of the wounded and things like that. And all of our families, when they come back, I like to think that all of them have that same moment of when they come home and we have a memorial service or a remembrance ceremony, that they feel that love and respect. They get a lot of me. I hang out around the unit some. So every once in a while I'll be out at the unit attending some meeting or working on the flowers that in the planters that surround the wall. And we'll have new soldiers come up, or they'll give me some worker bees to help me, and they're usually snowbirds, people that are just waiting to come in or waiting to get out. And so I will always ask them if it's their first time to the wall, or if they know anything. And so I will tell them stories. I'll pick a couple of the soldiers on the wall and tell them stories about those soldiers. I've been around a long time. And but I'll tell them stories about some of the soldiers on there. And it just, to see their wonder and to see those people come alive for them is very heartening for me. And I enjoy doing it. And I want them to remember that wall is there for a purpose and that it gives them something to look to. Also, so I'm a little neighborhood docent, and we work with the unit in leadership training. Mm-hmm. And so whenever they're having leadership class, the commander has everybody meet at the wall, and he talks to them about the wall. Mm. And then I will tell them a little story about somebody on the wall, or wherever I have the opportunity, just so that they know that those people were living, breathing things. They're not just names carved into a wall, and that they all had an experience that could help teach them. I tell our families that the remembrance ceremonies we have there on the anniversary of many of the dates is not about the families. It's about the soldiers. That wall is there for them to remember, for them to glean energy and confidence from, and so it's not about soldiers. It's about it's about the families. It's not about the families. It's about the soldiers. But they do invite us to come out when they're having a remembrance ceremony in honor of our loved ones, and it's just amazing to see all these young faces and realize that they get it. Hopefully, they get it. That these are men they should remember and honor, because they were all brave and wonderful young men. They were all young once. And I just think that's one thing that the unit gives us, is that opportunity to be there and express that and share in that. The other thing they give us is their support. We work on a very slim budget. Right now we're hoping to increase that, but we bring the families together twice a year. Mm-hmm. The unit brings them together at Wanza. We bring them together in the fall. We call it our family reunion. And we, just a chance to get together, talk, go out and experience things together. Like today we discussed there's going to be some changes in our organization, and discussed what ways we can grow and where do they see that we need to make changes. And that will involve having more children's programs. And so we hope to be able to do that in the near future. And that we try to get more spouses involved. One of the things about any organization, and you'll probably know this for anything you've belonged to, only about 10% of the people participate of your membership. Unfortunately for our
It's usually the 80-20, the Pareto principle.
Yes.
20% of the people do 80% of the work.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately for us, everybody that's a member of this organization is by default. Nobody wanted to join. So it sort of cuts our percentages a little bit.
Got it.
Because these people are just members because they lost a loved one. And so there's no requirement on them to participate or anything. But those that do seem to come purposefully. Mm-hmm. And like I said, with the Eichners, they're there every year. This was the first year they couldn't come. And because Mr. Eichner's health, I mean, they're in their 80s, please, and so all the travel and everything. But they sort of assemble to us that of the eternity of the relationship that we have with the unit and the unit with our families. I'm very proud of the history that we created, of the organization that we created. When my husband and I came to the unit in 1990, there was no notification process in our unit or in the Army. And a little 3x5 metal box with 3x5 cards in it was the first notification process. And that was in 1990, and we all filled out a card. If something happens to my husband, please contact me at so-and-so and bring my friend. And that was the beginning of it. Today's Army program stemmed out of what was born in the 160th. Granted, the rest of the Army didn't know they needed it until 9/11, but we had started that program having a process for notifying our families, for caring for our families. I think we made the first video like in 94 or 95, and it was a video made in the unit for casualty assistance officers. I moved to Washington, D.C., and the lady came out from across the street. I know you. We were just at Command and Staff College, and the wives had to go and attend the part on casualty assistance, and they showed your video. We had no idea they were going to use that Army wife. We thought it was a unit thing.
It just caught on, yeah.
And it was how we dealt with our families, and that became the standard for today's Army. And I worked with the Department of Justice, so I worked with State Department some and the FBI, and things like the USS Cole and the embassy bombings in Nairobi and Kenya, in seeing how those families were taken care of by the State Department and by the Navy and other organizations. I realized we had the only outfit going where we had an organization of families taking care of families. And it's not that we do go to the memorials when we have a new loss, and we're there to support the families if they want us. But we're always there. We're always there to take care of one another. Excuse me. And I'm just so proud that we are the beginning of how the military and the government takes care of our families now. That to me is a really big thing.
That's fantastic.
And I mean, to imagine being picked up in one country, dropped off in the United States at LaGuardia in the middle of the night with no money, no clothes, no anything, and you're left to your own devices. I mean, that would never happen with us. So it's been very heartening. And then to get to work with those organizations and help them in developing. I was called in to speak with the FBI when they were picking up the USS Cole on how to take care of our families when they were taking over the Navy families. And so we had simple guidelines that we always be honest, be thorough in your honesty, and don't treat them like children. We are adults, and it's almost insulting. But I know people do it out of kindness and good intention, but sometimes it makes the whole situation much more difficult. And so that's something we've learned over the years is treat the people respectfully and don't try to take too much care of us. We are still big people, mm-hmm. and that treat us that way and we'll respond much more quickly. I really hadn't intended to go into that part of it. I think it's more important that we walk away knowing that the unit is here because the right people at the right time got together and decided we needed to provide special support for our families. And here in the Night Stalker community, we're able to do that. We are one of the only units where our casualty assistance officers all come from within our unit. They're all associated with and know the trials and tribulations that the families are going through or have been through. And then we have this backup organization that is there to pick up after the military moves away and all that. Ours never move away really far, but when they step back into their daily duties, then we've got our Night Stalker families to pick up and be there to talk, to help grieve through the process, just to be there to support our families. And I think that's the greatest thing one of the greatest things that this unit does is take the way it takes care of its soldiers and the way it takes care of its families. And if there's anything that I could ask someone to do would be to support that.
And how does one support that? Like if you said, hey Brad, I'd like you to support our cause, how can I help support your cause?
Well, fortunately, we are coming into an entirely new era of the Night Stalker Foundation.
Yep.
And where we've had separate umbrellas before, we had the Night Stalker Association, we had the Families of Fallen Night Stalkers, we had the unit. This will be all-encompassing, and it's going to cover the scholarships for all of our children, both active duty and fallen. It's going to cover the Families of Fallen Night Stalkers to help us be able to better serve our families that do participate in our activities. And it'll continue working with our soldiers. I remember one of the first things with Night Stalker Association, I thought, yeah, that's back in the old days, that was called a right arm night. All the guys would get together and go to the club. And it's not just limited to things like that. It is soldiers taking care of soldiers. And so the Night Stalker Foundation is the umbrella that all this will fall under now, and we're excited about it. And so if people want to donate, I would say go to the Night Stalker Foundation, make your donations there. If you have a specific requirement that you want to put money towards scholarships, then there's a place that you can do that. And if you have questions, there's a number there that you can contact. But through the Night Stalker Foundation, we hope to improve the programs that we've created and just make sure they work a little bit better, to give us the funding to be able to take care of things the way we want to and need to, and ensure their continuation. Like I said, we are unique, and we want to be sure that we are able to continue to maintain this program. We don't need to be unique always, but that we'd like there to be more organizations like us. But the 160th being special,
It's pretty special.
it's pretty special.
It's pretty special. So before we go, I know before we started talking, you mentioned, I mean, the word unique is important, but I guess, do you, any stories you want to share? Anything that can help, I know you've mentioned you have a lot of stories, you've met a lot of families, you've been involved for a few years now. Any stories come to mind that you'd like to share?
Oh, of course, until you ask me, I can think of 1,000. But now,
that's how it works.
Yeah, it always works that
Yeah.
way. I've been a widow for 26 years now. There's people that come and they are just amazed that they say, well, you seem so well adjusted. I don't know what we're supposed to be. But
Right.
I really and
How do
truly,
I respond to that?
I really and truly think it's because we have the support of the organization. I always love when I go to the wall as a docent and somebody will just walk up and you'll say, is there any particular name you're looking for? And they'll say no. And so just to pull a name. And I've sort of got a trick to it. I've got some memorized, and the others, you tell me a name right now and I might not even know who it is. But no, I do their names often enough, building them in calendars and keeping track of their families. But it's just, when you tell somebody, in my particular case, when I say the Black Hawk Down story, instead of saying he was killed in Somalia, that was a long time ago. Some of these kids weren't born yet. But when I say the Black Hawk Down story, everybody knows immediately what I'm talking about. And they'll always have a question. Was that really how it happened? This, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting to see the expression on their face when it's like, we're seeing a movie star. They're just so surprised that, I guess we're still around, but so surprised that these were real people that
Right.
did real things. They're not just names on the wall.
Well, and it's not just Hollywood. It's the story
it's
behind
real.
it is the most important part.
And it's real.
And it's real.
And it happened. And that these guys will have those opportunities to do that again. I am so proud of our unit, one, for all it accomplished. And there's just little things in our life that some people think may be a little bit morbid, but we don't. It's just all how you look at it. But I think we're a pretty good bunch, and I think that the guys that went before us, the plank holders, the guys that started it out, had no idea what they were creating. They were having fun. They were doing things with aviation that people didn't do back then, and creating a whole new way to fly and a way to operate. And throughout the history of the unit, we've been innovative, whether it be in aviation or family care. And I think that's our greatest gift to the world.
Yeah, and just everything that I've learned today and my time kind of working with the foundation is just everyone's dedication to the cause, everybody's just the way that they approach everything is just very, very, they believe very strongly in it and very objective-oriented, very, very unique how you approach scenarios. And, every one of them is very passionate about it. And it's great to hear. And I know just myself in the role that I have in the world, it makes you want to be a better person too, whatever that means. Mm-hmm. It makes, I'm around that and I just see how they interact. I see how
we love on each other.
How you love on each other, how there's just this culture mm-hmm. that is unbreakable. And it's, you want to be a part of that too. When you're around it for, 5 minutes, you're like,
I just want to join this team.
That's what I said. If I could go back 10 years, I would tell my younger self, join this team. Yeah. You can be better than you are. And that's the vibe I get, which is fantastic.
And it is. And it's true no matter if you're talking to a new guy coming to the unit because they're so excited.
Oh, my God.
Or you talk to an old guy that just, we can't push him out the door.
Yeah. Because they don't want to leave.
Right.
Yeah.
or somewhere in the middle, you're a family that's hanging on to the memory and the remembrance and the support from that.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you.
This was
Thank you so
fantastic.
much.
I loved it, and ultimately we'll tell the world a little more about you.
Okay, terrific.